Y'all, I don't even know if I can explain this right, but let me talk to you about the difference between a JPEG, a PNG, and an SVG, and why sometimes it doesn't really matter. If you've got a bad image, you've got a bad image. The problem is that some people on Etsy or something will sell you an image and they'll say big words like it's a PNG 300 DPI or it's an SVG, and some of you all think that you need to have an SVG or it's got to be a PNG, it's got to be 300 DPI. No, it's not necessarily true. What I've got open right now is a blank image. It's 10 inches by 10 inches at 300 DPI. Now I haven't saved it as anything yet. Right now it's just lives in my software. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to say I want a black circle. Okay, so here's one. I'm going to right click this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go into my software and I'm going to hit paste. Okay, now it's pretty small. And from here to me, it looks pretty good. I'm going to start zooming in. Now watch what happens when I can get close. See all that fuzz? It's nasty. Okay? It doesn't look good. And a lot of you guys are printing stuff and it kind of bleeds out and you're like, what happened? Why does it look fuzzy? What's wrong with my printer? Nothing's wrong with your printer. You're printing a bad image. So now this is a 10 inch. I'm designing it a 10 inch. So this is good at, if I was to print a 10 inch logo on a shirt, that's as good as this dot's ever going to look. So if I make this thing right now, it is, I'm just going to size it a little bit different. I'm going to make it 1 inch. Right now it's a little less than a ½ inch. So I'm going to make it a 1 inch, perfect 1 inch circle. Okay, it's as good as this is ever going to look. Now when I take this and make it 2 inches, I can't make it look the same. It's got the same amount of information, the same amount of data, but now I've made it twice as big, so now it's going to get blurry twice as fast, and it's just never going to look good. It's get blurrier and blurrier. So you see that when I blow this thing up big, look at how gnarly that looks. So if I had a nice crisp circular logo that I wanted to put on a shirt, you're already starting off on the wrong foot. Now watch what this is. Now here's the problem: is I can take this image right now, and I can go to File, and I can export it, and I can make it a SVG, and I can tell it to use a DPI of 300 DPI. I could go 400, 600, but it's never going to look any better than this because that's what I've told it to do. All that I'm going to do by upping the DPI is telling the computer how much space this occupies, but this thing is finite. It only has a certain amount of information. Now, if you ever hear about a vector image, a vector doesn't have any size. It is just numbers in a computer program. So I'm going to take a circle here in a vector, and I'm going to make a perfect circle. I'll make it black, just like this other one. Now, watch what happens. This thing is a little over 2 inches, 2.28 inches squared. So I'm going to zoom in, and now watch what happens. I don't get those dots. They're not there because there's not really pixels there. My computer screen is made of pixels to indicate it, but you're never going to get that horrible looking line. It's all what you see. There's no spillover because all this thing is these dots and the computer knowing how far they are apart, where they are in place. If you look down on the bottom right hand corner, there's an X and a Y coordinates. So all that means is that X is sitting at up here at the top left of my rulers here is 0, 0. And if I go over 4.363 inches and down to 3.9, about 4 inches by 4 inches, that's where my shape sits. So that's all the computer knows. There's 4 dots and they're centered around this point, and this is how big they are and the distance. These little nodes here, these handles tell it how steep the curve is and that kind of thing. So now, if I save this to an SVG, it could be 1 DPI. It doesn't matter. It's always going to be beautiful. It's always going to be that information. I can make it 700,000 DPI. I could print this circle on the side of the moon and it would look beautiful. But this one right here is only going to look a little bit fuzzy at about 1 inch by 1 inch. And never any bigger is it going to look any better. So I could save it all day long as a PNG, and I could throw all kinds of pretty names at you. But if it's once it's an ugly baby, it's an ugly baby. And so this dot here is trash. And there's a lot of people on Etsy watch the reviews and that kind of stuff because you're not going to know until you buy it. And what they're doing is they'll go to Amazon and they're doing this. They're going to say, let me see, Hello Kitty. They're going to go, oh, this is really cool. They're going to say, maybe not that image. Well, some of this, they'll probably just take this t-shirt and cut the image off of that with some software. But, I mean, they'll literally just, find an image anywhere on here. Say maybe this one or something. I mean, this is probably a bad example just because this isn't something you would print. But I've seen people take shower curtains and that kind of thing, or they'll take a screenshot of something like that. And I've still got my circle. Let me go to something like, I'll just go to Google. It's probably easier just to say Hello Kitty picture. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna sell this on Etsy, which is illegal anyways, but they do it. I know they try to shut them down as fast as they can, but they can't get them all. So now that looks pretty good, and it's got a white background. And people run things through websites, so they'll put it in Cricut and they'll get rid of that background and they'll save it as a PNG and go, okay, and that's good. The background is gone, and you do want that when you're working with, especially like Cricuts, because you need to be able to. It has to detect the edges in order to cut things out. And I can't see how I can't stack it on top of there because it's not see-through. I mean, I can move this up to the front above it, but it's really this isn't clear. So if my background was if I've got my background was black or red or something like that, Kitty's gonna look real terrible because it's not cut out. And so they'll go into their software, and I can do it here. I can go over to my pixel persona. I'm going to rasterize this, which is going to lock in those pixels, and so it's never going to look any better than it does right now. This is at 10 inches, and it looks pretty good. It's a pretty big size. And I'm going to go and I select the outside and click that. I'll go in here and click these little things and that kind of stuff like that. Anyways, you get my point. I'm taking all the background out. Okay, that's well and good. You can do take your time and do a little bit better job than I just did. But here's what they're selling you. Now look when I zoom in. You see all this? Do you see that? You're buying this, and that's not good. So if I take the same, I go back to my design, to my vectors, and I click here, and I draw myself a line, that same curve. Now when I go to change the color, I'm going to change it to black there, under my stroke. I can draw Hello Kitty easy. I've done it. I mean, she's just circles. She's a circle, and you take a couple triangles and you weld them together, and you can make it look beautiful. And this is the difference. This is me in a vector, and this is your 300 DPI saved as an SVG, saved as a PNG, no background. Oh my God, it's the best thing you've ever seen. And look at those eyes. You're going to get all this is what you're getting. So try not to pay attention to those numbers so much. Find good designers. Make your own designs. Don't be realistic with your things. Don't, when you go into a Facebook page and you see somebody saying, "Oh, take this image for free. This is really cool." You know what I mean? These stupid logos that these girls are trying to sell, or these scammers, whoever they are. If you wanted to print this on a T-shirt or something like that, you can copy an image off of Facebook, and that's your prerogative. And when I say go file, new from my clipboard, like, oh, look at this image I've got. Now, this is on a, let me see how big this came out to be. This is in pixels. Let me go up here and change it to inches. So this is 7.6 inches by 7.6 inches, and it's already kind of fuzzy. And so on my screen in real life, that's, look at my screen, this I'm putting a ruler up to the thing because it's pretty close. So this is 5.5 inches and it looks like crap. So I'm gonna zoom into actual size where I put this up to my ruler up at the top of the screen there. I'm just measuring up here. If you see my cursor, I'm putting a ruler up against this and just measuring that. And when they match up, the 7 on my ruler matches up, which is about there, it looks pretty awful. You know, and you could get away with selling stuff like this if you want to, but it's not good. You know, it doesn't look good. Don't sell stuff like this, and don't get your images like that. You know, um, there's a lot of great bundles. I recommend people look at stuff like Creative Fabrica or Design Bundles or something, or find an independent artist. If you're not creative, you know, go to Fiverr and find some people. You know, there's some people like myself that are designers. You know, I'm just sort of starting out and trying to help people, and I'm learning, you know, along the way and learning stuff. So I'm just doing logos for people and trying to help people that have gotten kind of screwed over on Etsy and do these kind of things just to teach people as much as I can. So just be on the lookout and stop worrying so much about these words. And you know that I don't want to call this person out, but you know, people are always asking about, you know, how do I turn it to an image or to a PNG, and you know, they said it was 300 DPI, and why does it look like this? Or you know, what's wrong with my printer? Is it ghosting? Is it doing this? What's it doing? Why is it doing this? It's a lot of times, look at your image. You know, find a piece of software like Photopea. I've done some videos on that. Or you know, even just go into your some kind of picture like this, right click it, you know, like Windows, open it with just your Photos thing or the Preview app on Mac, and just, you know, really zoom in on it. And you know, this looks all right at a pretty good distance. So I'm not hating this one. You know, I'd have to look at the specs on it to see what size it is. But it's not great because I'm already zooming in and I'm getting a lot of, you know, pixelated stuff. And when you work with a true SVG with somebody who made it as a vector and it's true colors, you can blow it up as big as you want to, and it's going to look real crisp, even on close inspection, even when you zoom in. The only little fuzz you're going to get is from the shirt itself, just from the fibers and that kind of stuff. If you print it on a hard, like a coaster, you're going to get a beautiful, beautiful print, and no matter what size you do, it's just you're limited by your printer, but printers are nice these days. So it's not that. You know, most of the time you're going to be printing beyond, you know, your image quality. So don't worry about that so much. Look at your images first. That's where it all starts. And you can't, no matter how good your printer profiles are and any of that stuff, and no matter how good you are at Canva, I don't like Canva, but see, you heard that in my voice, but people like it. I don't like Cricut Design Space for sublimation. I love my Cricut, and I don't do stuff in Cricut. I design all my stuff in other software and come in there and uh, just hit make it. But it's got some of the same tools, so it's capable for that, for vinyl cutting, but it's not good for sublimation. So I recommend to get away from it as soon as you can. Tools like Photopea is awesome. Check out Inkscape. Inkscape has got some really good tools for us. This is a Photoshop clone online. It does a good job. I've got some other videos on that. Inkscape is real good. It's got some really powerful tools that some other things don't have. Or if I did that same thing where I said I want a black circle, y'all gonna love this. I'm gonna take that black circle and I'm gonna copy that ugly black circle that we had before. You know, it didn't look so good. And watch what I do. I'm gonna paste it in here. Right now I got a background on it and it looks like crap. You see that? It's all fuzzy. But now look at this. Over here, if you go to path, this one right here is trace bitmap, and it shows up over here as a little like a picture with a mountain and a moon or whatever. You're gonna click on that. You just click on it in here. I'll show you. And then so this little dialog comes up. Right now I'm just gonna do single scan. Brightness cutoff is single color. This works pretty good most of the time. If it's a multicolor item, it works. It's just more work. You can get into that later. It's a little more in depth. But you take the slider right here and you just sort of move it. Right here will be nothing. On the other end it'll go black. So you just kind of move it up until that fuzziness sort of balances out and it looks like the shape. In a more complex shape, it's going to be a little bit more delicate, but you just want to play around with this. Don't mess around with these too much. Smoothing corners is great on a circle. If you got a real complex image, you might want to dial that down a little bit so it doesn't try to smooth it out too much and get a little blobby. But for this example, let me just show you what happens. I've got it selected over here just by clicking on it, and then when I hit apply, after I found that little sweet spot, and you can always go back and try it again, but I hit apply. Now it doesn't look like anything happened, but when I go over here now and drag out, look what happened. Now background's gone. Now here's my old trash image, and you can tell because it comes back up over here. When I click this one, it doesn't come up because it's not a bitmap anymore. It's not a PNG anymore. It's not a JPEG. It's an SVG vector ready, or a vector that's SVG ready. Now look when I zoom in. No more of that stuff. And then in Inkscape, with the object selected, I can just go down here and click a color and change the color. Let's change it to red, change it to purple. And then if I hold down the shift key and click a color, it'll do the outline. And then, so you've got outline. You can go over here to this little paintbrush, and that tells you, like, you've got your color for your fill is the inside, and your paint, that's your color for your outside. You can do it here in your stroke style. Here's the width, and you can make that thicker and that kind of thing. Make it real thick. You can tell it if you want the lines to be straight or curved, if you want it to be on the inside or the outside of your circle, that kind of thing. So y'all just play around with that kind of stuff. This is a good piece of software, but look at that Photopea for just grabbing a design and resizing it, maybe mirroring it and printing it. But look at stuff like this, because you saw what happened. I mean, I took something real simple, and especially with text, you want to come in here to something like this and say, imagine. So now I've got this, and it's the same thing. These are vectors. They're not. This is not. I'm going to hold down the Alt key a little bit. But I can zoom in with these. Same thing. Look at that. Crisp. And you have to edit them and that kind of stuff. There's ways to do the spacing to where the lines, these letters get closer together and things like that. But it's a real powerful tool. And, you can size these things and then click on them again and, changing the way they sit on your cup or your design or whatever. But my point is that this is quality, and this is something you can do yourself. And if you download this, something that says Disney or says something, you're gonna regret it. So look on DaFont, DAFONT, and find some fonts, and then that way when you go to your text tool, you can go up here and change it to like something that looks like Disney or something. They got stuff that looks like Jurassic Park and stuff that looks like Harry Potter, but it's free, and you can just do those kind of things yourself and stop paying these crooks. And do pay artists when you need to. You know what I mean? I do some art, but I'm not a master of every single style. You know what I mean? I'm sure maybe Picasso, maybe he wanted to have a Van Gogh in his house. Just because it's different than what he can do himself. Just because he was Picasso doesn't mean he can do everything. So do the stuff that you want to do that you can do well, and then buy the stuff that you don't, and that kind of thing. Just don't try not to steal images, and try not to get garbage off the internet. This is a cool logo and stuff, but I'm telling you, you drag it into software, and see how tiny that is. This is only 10 by 10, so imagine that looked pretty good on the internet, but look at it now. And somebody is going to sell you this. They're going to sell something like this. They're going to drag it up real big, and they're going to put a pretty good little thumbnail on their Etsy page and put all kinds of words across it to make it look like it's protected and watermarked and stuff. And you're going to open it up and it's going to look like this, and you're going to think you did something wrong, and you didn't. So anyways, it's a long video, but I thought it was real important. I thought this was an important video. So y'all have a good one and stay safe out there in the interwebs. I don't talk like this.